The German word we are studying this week is Umwelt. So the article I wanted to examine is called "The Price of Green Energy. Is Germany Killing the Environment to Save It?" The article functions as a kind of hit piece against the environmental movement, focusing on the negative aspects of the greening of Germany. The reason why I'm interested in the article isn't so much for what it is saying, but more for what it's not saying. The article attacks a lot of the changes involved in a sustainable transition for Germany, but what it does not focus on is the status quo. And the status quo of Germany's environmental position is shockingly bad. The country aims to be one of the leaders against climate change, but it's missing its own carbon reduction targets by a significant amount. One of the major reasons for this is Germany's continued reliance on coal power as an electricity source. Guten Tag, ich bin Thomas Henry, and I'd like to discuss the role that coal still plays in the German energy mix today, as well as the next steps in removing that reliance on coal in order to secure a more sustainable future. Let's first take a look at the German energy mix as compared to the American one. These graphs show the different energy sources for electricity production in both Germany and the United States. One of the first obvious differences is that Germany has a higher percent of usage of renewables than America, at 29.5% over our 17.1%. However, the percentage of fossil fuel reliance is pretty similar. America's at 60% and Germany's just above 50%. That being said, America's fossil fuel mix is about half natural gas and half coal, whereas Germany's is almost all coal. This is significant because natural gas produces about half the carbon dioxide that coal does when both are burned for the same energy output. Natural gas also has a much cleaner burn, largely combusting into carbon dioxide and water. Coal, on the other hand, releases particulate matter, heavy metals, sulfur dioxides, and other pollutants known to be hazardous to human health when it combusts. So why is Germany relying on it so heavily? Part of the reason is political, and part of it is situational. Germany has enormous natural reserves of coal, and about 30,000 people are employed in the direct mining of it, along with about 20,000 more employed in coal-fired power plants, according to Eurocoal.eu. If that number sounds too small to command enough political sway to change an entire nation's power mix, keep in mind that it's double the ratio of miners to total population that exists in the United States, and coal certainly plays a strong role in the American political sphere. In Germany, the coal industry has serious ties to the German government, and the lawmakers from coal-producing regions are very frequently pro-coal. Another reason why coal reliance is so high at the moment is because of the recent switch away from nuclear power. Following the 2011 Fukushima disaster, the German government decided to decrease its reliance on nuclear, with an eventual goal of eliminating it by 2022. As the nuclear reactors came offline, coal-fired power plants took their place. According to the Institute for Energy Research, Germany has added 10 gigawatts of coal-fired power production over the last 5 years. For context, that's enough power for about 7.5 million homes, or in other words, an enormous increase in coal reliance as a result of the switch away from nuclear. The problem is, though, that the economics and environment in Germany are almost perfectly set up for coal to retain its strong role in power production. Part of the reason why lower carbon natural gas usage is so prevalent in America is because of the new fracking technology being utilized by oil and gas companies across the nation. Fracking is banned in Germany and in many other European countries, and importing natural gas becomes extremely economic due to transport costs. On the renewables front, Germany also has a lot of issues. The solar potential of the country is about equivalent to that of Alaska, and there's enormous flux in generation capabilities. German solar power production is 8 times higher in July as it is in January, when the demand is still about the same. Wind technologies also have issues, since supply of wind does not necessarily track power demand in the country. That is to say, Germany has a lot of hurdles to overcome as it tries to lessen its reliance on coal. Looking forward, the EU's cap-and-trade program is starting to tax carbon emissions in the electricity and industrial sectors, and the tax ramps up over time. Since coal pollutes more than natural gas will become more economic in the future as coal gets taxed more and more. Eventually, though, even natural gas will not be as economic as renewables, since renewables do not emit carbon, and countries should be able to transition away from fossil fuels slowly and over time. But how does all this relate back to our German culture and our word of Umwelt? It shows a complicated and complex relationship that Germans have with the environment, of both caring for it and not caring for it enough. While Germany clearly takes the issue of climate change seriously, they also don't have a carbon tax, which is considered by economists to be the most effective method of decarbonizing a society. To be fair, though, fewer than 20 countries have implemented a carbon tax. That being said, Germany could take a much stronger stand against climate change by beginning to shift away from coal more seriously, which is something they'll have to do in the future anyway. The fact that Germany also is projected to fall significantly short of its emissions targets does not send a good message in terms of Western focus on climate change. Overall, the German response to climate change shows a response that is optimistic and ambitious, but also shows that Germans are dragging their feet when it comes to sustainability. The fact that articles like this one that I examined exist show that there is widespread resistance to a full adoption of a sustainable framework across the nation, even in a nation that is extremely developed and extremely environmentally conscious among the European nations. So we've still got a far way to go in the fight against climate change. Thanks for listening, and I hope you really enjoyed this.